Okay, so I decided instead of I was going to make TikToks talking about this, which I did, but I'm mostly going to actually talk to this as a YouTube video because why not? And I want to talk about um, my some spiritual stuff, and I usually don't do this from my phone. I usually do it with my computer, but why not try it this way? So I struggle a lot with trying to talk about my feelings, especially when I do, I'm over intellectualizing them for an extended period of time. And in this case, I would like to sort of feel them and try to talk about them while I'm feeling them. And this is going to be a conversation about my issues with my identity and with the communities I interact with. And it's going to be pretty dynamic and it's going to be different from what I usually do. I also don't know if this video will just cut out after a certain point. I don't know. So my big issue with my identity is that as the individual I am, I feel like I'm a problem. I always feel like I am burdening other people, that I am an inconvenience, and that any of my personal feelings are just not important. And I shouldn't be feeling them or communicating them or talking to people about them because most people just don't care. And uh, on average, they really don't, or they just don't have the patience to deal with me going through my stuff for an extended period of time. This is why, therapy is great, but, therapy also costs a lot of money, and not everybody can just afford therapy. Even when I was working forever, I was working like 40 hours a week, I still couldn't afford therapy. And that being said, it's always something off in the distance, and this is sort of my way of coping with that issue. And when I'm talking about my feelings, I know that the communities I want to be a part of and the communities I want to talk with, I'm always afraid that they're just going to shun me or shame me or attack me. I constantly live in fear. And I know that seems weird, like, why would I feel that way? Because it doesn't really make any sense. But for me, it's a genuine fear of my beliefs, my ideas, my concepts. Not everybody's going to like them. And I already know that. And it is way easier for me to just talk to individuals about this than it is to talk to like a group or a community. It's one of the reasons why if I ever became really famous on like YouTube or TikTok or wherever, I feel like I would be hated or like people would just start drama and chaos with me and it would drive me nuts. And people can be like, "Oh, well, you'll just get over it." My fear is that even when I know it or even when it's happening, I'm going to be bothered by it even though I want to get over it. And I don't know if I'll be able to get over it. And that's like a big fear of mine because I know I'm problematic. I know that I have belief systems that probably shouldn't be belief systems that I have based on societal standards or even by personal standards. Like, I could totally see people being like, "Dude, you're just weird and crazy," or like, "You have these beliefs that are problematic." And I'd be like, "Okay, well, I don't know what to do about that. So how can I improve?" And other than just don't have that belief system, and it's like, well, I don't know how to transition out of this belief system. Also, that takes time and growth. And I'm probably going to make a lot of mistakes. And I'm currently making a lot of mistakes, obviously, if you think what I'm believing is problematic. So I really was just sitting here thinking to myself, who am I? What do I care about? Why am I here? And I want to explore these different belief systems, right? Like, I'll give an example of something that I think is controversial that I believe in, that I think if other people heard, they'd be like, "You're stupid, you're crazy, or you're dumb," just to get started. I believe that everything is worth believing in. All religions, all belief systems, good or bad, doesn't matter. It's worth learning about, believing in, and incorporating into your belief system. Learn about as many different cultures and ideas as you can, and use that as the opportunity for you to grow as a person. And one of the reasons why I believe in that is that every time I believed in just one belief system, I may believe in that one belief system in a super deep and complex way, but ultimately I see another one that is better. And if you believe in MBTI, this is why I think I have an NE dominant placement, is that I believe in the expanded form of ideas, that ideas aren't just like, if you believe, let's say you're a Christian, I can't just believe in one God. I have to believe that there are many, multiple, an alarming amount of gods. Now, if the belief system is also you only can believe in one God that is real, I believe in gods that people wouldn't consider real. I believe in deities like I've mentioned previously in some of my TikToks, I believe in gods that are, you know, alien gods, like H.P. Lovecraft's ideas, which are really terrifying gods, but they're still things that I could believe in as like an idea. And then you also think of things like fiction, like D&D has deities, but I could believe in the D&D deities, or in the Magic the Gathering's deities, or the, even fantasy deities. I could create my own deities and still believe in them. And that's one of those big things that I get from people where they're like, you're just crazy, you don't know what you're talking about, you're ridiculous. And it's like, okay, then that's how you feel, but like, I'm gonna believe what I'm gonna believe in, and I don't have a community for that. And that's something that really bothers me, is I don't have a community for that. And I believe in all these different things, and I'm always afraid of believing in certain things because I don't want to upset the people who believe in them, right? Like, I can believe in the Christian God. I just don't think he's the only one. And I think that all the different gods deserve respect. I could believe in, the deities from, let's say, African culture, right? Where, and obviously there's a very large amount of African deities, but I'll give a specific one, which is Yoruban deities, such as like Yamea or Oshun, and those are goddesses that I personally have connected with. But I'm always afraid that if I'm super open about that beliefs, I'm going to be perceived as a bad person or someone who's culturally appropriating their deities. Like, I can't believe in those deities because I'm white, which, I mean, could be true. But I still have a connection to those deities. I still feel connected to those deities. And I'm not feeling them because I want to be part of Black culture, and I'm not feeling them because I want to steal them from some other culture and make it about me. I believe in them because I want to build a relationship with them. I want to bond with them in a way that only I can as an individual. And that's a big issue for me because I have not personally been on the receiving end of this perspective, but I have been. I have seen the opinions of other people be thrown around a lot. People in positions of social and spiritual power, of you can't do what I just said because you're white, and those deities wouldn't even pay attention to you. They wouldn't even care about you, and it is shocking to me because it's like, deities are entities of creation usually, but they're also entities that impact the world and the environment outside of my whiteness, right? Outside of my ethnicity. Why wouldn't they want that? I connect a lot with the belief systems of those things. I've had other people tell me, well, then believe in deities that are for white people. Well, I do believe in those deities. I just don't just believe in those deities. I believe in all of these different deities because they're all valid and they are all important and they all should be understood and connected with in their own way. I may not be able to get to every deity, but I want to get to understand and communicate with as many of those deities as I can, because I really do want people to, and not just people, but spirits, divine beings, even like spirit guides or anything of that nature, to understand that I respect them and that I care about them. And if an entity or a being or a deity was like, hey, I don't want to connect with you because you're white, I'd be like, okay, then I will not connect with you. Thank you for your time. And I will move on. But that's not what I've experienced. I've experienced deities of every race from every culture be receptive to me, and because I don't do anything or engage in ways that are harmful. So, and if I do, I feel like those deities are put in place to help me learn how to be less toxic, how to be less problematic, how to be, in the words to put bluntly, I would believe in Yoruban deities, and I could believe that their way of helping me is by helping me become less racist, be more aware of white supremacy, be more aware of how racism affects our country, and how I can become a better ally. So, like, that's part of my belief systems. Now I can go into other things that involve different communities, such as like I'm always afraid of trying out something or doing something because I'm afraid I'm going to make people angry. Because I think that I'm going to hurt someone if I culturally appropriate something, right? If I put arrows on my skin, if I got a tattoo that was an arrow, if it looked too much like a pattern that already exists somewhere else in the world, I'm afraid that people in America or people in other countries are going to attack me, not like in a physical sense, but I'm going to have hurt them by my mere existence of wearing a tattoo or by my mere existence of being a person. I am offending them. And then they're going to be upset with me. And that's something that does bother me. And even if I was to create art that depicted things like this, where I'm not trying to be stereotypical or I'm not trying to invalidate these things, I usually communicate with people who are in those communities, but people also have told me don't do that, right? They'll be like, don't communicate with those. Like, how do I word this? Here's a good example. So I hear so many different opinions from so many different cultures with so many different comments and ideas, and they're all in contradiction with each other, right? And sometimes I veer into territories where I'm like, I'm really interested in this concept or this belief system. So I will ask questions about it. And then I sometimes get responses of like, it's not my job to teach you this. And I'm like, well, you're a person who could teach me this, and I understand that that's not your job, so I will stop asking you, but I'll ask somebody else who's part of your culture, part of your traditions, and they also don't want to listen. They don't want to hear me. They don't care what I think or feel, and they do the same thing. And you experience it enough times, you begin to have this feeling of like, well, if I go and I do a random article that I read, I could be getting misinformation. And I mean, even interacting with those individuals, I could still be getting a misinformation. But like, again, these are things that bother me because I want to talk about them. I want people to feel seen and heard because I sometimes feel like I'm not seen and heard. And that has a huge impact on my belief systems because I have spent a lot of my life not being understood. And I don't want to upset or hurt or harm the individuals I've mentioned in this and the communities I've mentioned in this. And why this is so painful for me is because I don't feel like I belong anywhere. I mean, that's kind of like the flaw of white supremacy, right? Is that once you're homogenized into this community of whiteness, you only really engage in it, and then you lose all your cultural identity. And I have Native American ancestors who I don't know how to connect with. I have white ancestors who I don't know how to connect with. Or if I try to connect with, it's an in and out experience. You know, I also have like this genuine vulnerability of feeling like I don't have any structures. There are no religions or systems for me. And I don't know if that's because it's me as an individual or if it's because it's my community or what it is. I don't know. And that's why I'm so dedicated to wanting to build structures for other people religiously and spiritually and create new religions or create new belief systems and communicate those belief systems because those things are really important to me. And I really struggle with that because I want people to feel heard. And I don't think that they are heard. And I feel like sometimes I don't hear them. And I want to. So there's a lot that goes into that belief that I have, and that way of perceiving this information. So like, obviously, I want people to comment on this, give me your opinions, tell me your thoughts, interact with it however you feel comfortable, because I don't think that I'm completely right. But I do know a lot about a lot of things, right? Like I spent a large chunk of my life learning about archetypes and religions and cultures and philosophies so that I can use those skills to help people because I want to empathize with them. I want them to know that, at least one person is out here who loves you and is willing to learn about you and your history. And I know that has helped the people of color in my life who I've interacted with and people from different cultures. But sometimes I still feel like it's not enough. I feel like I'm not enough. And or I'm not doing enough, even though people in my life tell me that I am. And they're like, yeah, you are doing enough. You're putting in the time and you're really helping and you listen and you care. But I don't know if that really is enough. So that's sort of why I'm making this video, is because, like, I want to hear other people's opinions. I want to hear how they feel and how they think and what they want. And, what do they want to see in these situations? And I'm always afraid of becoming defensive or getting angry or upset because I get these emotions that I don't need, but I still feel them, right? I still get upset and defensive. I still suffer from white fragility, and I still, experience this internal longing to connect with all these different cultures and traditions and communities, but never feeling like they would truly be able to accept me for who I am. And I don't know if that's just because I grew up in white supremacy and I never worked with it. Like, I never succeeded within white supremacy in any way. Like, I've never identified as anything that white supremacy has put on me, either it be patriarchy, Christian norms, cultural norms. I've never identified with them. So I've never really benefited from the privileges outside of, I look white, but I don't. People in my community who are white, right? So other white people don't like me. Or if they do, they like me because I'm really deep and I'm like super loving and kind and I'm something they haven't experienced before. But although I'm being authentically myself in those moments, I notice that long term, those people get tired of me and they just move on. So, like, I don't know if I'm just not doing enough or if I'm doing too much. So it's kind of the point of this video. I might make another one about the same topic and sort of explore other ideas, but this was my way of kind of just talking about my feelings. Thank you for coming to this. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for spending the time. I appreciate you. I love you. Even if I don't know you, still care about you. And if you have any thoughts or opinions, please let me know.